Copilot for Microsoft 365 is revolutionizing how documents are produced. In this course, we show you how to effectively create documents in various applications, starting with Microsoft Word. You'll see how to generate drafts, rewrite parts of your doc, and chat with Copilot in Word. Next, learn how to create entire presentations with a few short clicks using Copilot in PowerPoint. Find out how to create slide decks from scratch or from an outline, then use Copilot to enhance them. Discover how Copilot fuels collaboration in Microsoft Loop and brainstorming in Microsoft Whiteboard. Finally, we'll cover some essential tips for writing great prompts so you can produce the best possible output with Copilot. If you ever find yourself staring at a blank Word document, Copilot can help you break your writer's block. With Copilot AI, you can generate a Word document from scratch or from a file, and use the Draft with Copilot tool to expand your text. So here in the Word 365 Start page, I'm going to select New Blank Document, and as soon as my new document opens, so does the Draft with Copilot tool. I can enter a prompt in the Compose box to describe what I'd like Copilot to write. I'll say, write a profile of the Homotic company. To create a draft from scratch, we can select Generate. However, in this case, it's a much better idea to provide some context, which we can do by selecting the option next to it, Reference a file. You can also paste in the share link for a file if you have it, or type the slash key when writing your description. I'll select Reference a file, and some suggestions pop up, including the file I'd like to choose, which is a PowerPoint presentation called Company Presentation. It's possible to reference up to 3 files this way, but of course they must all be saved on OneDrive or SharePoint for Copilot to access them. Now that I'm ready, I'll select Generate. And now Copilot's finished writing its draft. Below the output is in overlay with several options. You'll see the option to edit the prompt, if you'd like to go back and change the wording, as well as the options Keep It, to use this draft, Regenerate, to create a new one, Discard It, and a Compose box where we can enter more details. Let's select Regenerate to see what Copilot comes up with now. Copilot's generated the new draft, but we can fine-tune this even more by adding details. I'll click inside the Compose box and now add some detail. For example, I'll say, write more about smart home. Now click the Send button to generate a new draft, and Copilot generates a third draft. Now we can compare the drafts by using the navigation arrows. Click the left arrow to go back to the previous draft. Click the right arrow to go to the next draft. When you've selected the draft you want to add to the document, select Keep It, and Copilot uses that draft. We can also use this Draft with Copilot tool to add to an existing document. I'm going to scroll down. I'll select my cursor at the end of this document, and notice that in the left-hand margin when you're on a new line, there's the Copilot icon. We can click here or use the keyboard shortcut Alt plus I to open the Drafts with Copilot tool again. Now we can enter a new prompt, reference a file, and there's even the option Inspire Me, which will continue writing based on the context found in the document. I'll select Inspire Me. Copilot's once again suggested some text, which I'll check. Since I don't want to keep this suggestion, I'm going to select Discard It. And now you've seen how to use Copilot in Microsoft Word. Copilot in Microsoft Word acts as a handy writing assistant to help you fine-tune your document. To begin rewriting part of the document that I have open in Word, I'm going to select the text I want Copilot to rewrite. Then in the mini toolbar that opens, select the option Rewrite with Copilot. Note that you can also use the keyboard shortcut Alt-I. Copilot generates some suggested drafts, which are overlaid in a window in front of the document. I can see that I'm on draft 1 of 3, but we can use the navigation arrows. For example, click the right arrow to go to the next draft, and click the left arrow to go to the previous one. I can drag the scroll bar to scroll through the draft. If I want to generate new suggestions, I can click Regenerate or Adjust Tone. I'll select Adjust Tone, then select a tone from the menu, either neutral, professional, casual, imaginative, or concise. I'll select Concise, then Regenerate, and Copilot generates a new, more succinct draft of the selected text. To keep the current draft, I can either select Replace or Insert Below. I'll select Replace, and the suggested text has now replaced the original text. Copilot can also present text as a table, so it's more digestible. To use this feature, first select some text, so I'll keep the current selection. Go to the left margin and click the Copilot button. A menu opens with the options Rewrite with Copilot and Visualize as a table. Select Visualize as a table. Copilot shows the draft of a table below the original text. Because the original text was the history of a company, it's come up with a kind of a timeline with a year column and an event column. In the overlay, we've got options to keep it, regenerate, discard it, or click inside the Compose box and enter some more details, which is what I'll do. I'll say rewrite with 3 columns. Click the send arrow to generate, and Copilot has drafted a new table with a year, event, and description column. Once again, we can use the navigation arrows to navigate between drafts. But since I like this current draft, I'll select Keep It, and the table is inserted below the original text. We can also chat with Copilot. It can answer questions and suggest content based on your document. When using this feature, it's best to have a document that uses styles like titles and headers. When I scroll up, you'll notice that my document has titles and headers, and you can find these in the Styles group of the Home tab. I'll select the Copilot command in the Home tab. The Copilot pane opens. I'll scroll up, and at the top of the pane, there are some prompt starters like write about and change. We've got full prompts like summarize this doc, or you can enter a custom prompt in the Compose box, or select the microphone icon to dictate a prompt. Instead, I'll select View Prompts. This opens a menu with prompt categories, create, understand, and ask, as well as an option to view more prompts. I'll select Understand, then select the prompt starter, Tell me more about, and I'll use my keyboard to fill in this starter, Tell me more about eco-homes, which is mentioned in the document. Click the Send button to submit this prompt, and Copilot generates a response. Notice that it includes citation numbers, which we can hover over to see a link to a reference as well as the context. There's also a copy button you can select. And if I scroll down again, I'll find a number of references which we can click and scroll down again to see the links to references. Click a link to jump to that reference in the document. We can continue the conversation using the suggested prompts or by writing a new prompt. I'll select what are the core values of Hamotic, a company mentioned in the document. Copilot once again generates a response. If I want to change the subject, I can select Change Topic, and then tell Copilot whatever it is I'd like to talk about. I'll click the X in the top right corner to close the Copilot pane. And now you've seen how to enhance Word documents with Copilot. Creating a PowerPoint presentation with Copilot couldn't be easier. You can create a presentation from scratch or from an outline in Microsoft Word. And if you need to use an organization's branding or a particular slide formatting, you can also start from a template in PowerPoint. To create a presentation from scratch using Copilot, in the PowerPoint Backstage view, I'll select New Blank Presentation. In the new presentation that opens, I'll go up to the Home tab and select the Copilot command to open the Copilot pane on the right. In the pane, you'll find some prompt starters to choose from, like Create a Presentation and Create Presentation from File. You can also enter your prompt in the prompt area, click the microphone icon to dictate a prompt, or click View Prompts to browse through prompts by category like Create, Edit, and Ask. I'll click inside the prompt area and now enter a custom prompt. Create a presentation about brand awareness. Click the send arrow to submit, and Copilot quickly generates a presentation on this topic, which includes all kinds of formatting and images. Be aware that Copilot won't always come up with accessible content. You can find the accessibility status in the status bar at the bottom. I can see, for example, this presentation should be investigated. You may also not always like Copilot's design choices. An easy way to change the design is to go back up to the Home tab, select the Designer tool next to the Copilot command, and now you can scroll down to browse through different design ideas. Most likely, you'll want to create a presentation using your own content, which you can do by preparing an outline in Word. I'll go down to the taskbar and open Word. Here I've got an outline open. For Copilot to understand the structure of your presentation, it's important to use styles like headings and titles. It's also a good idea to include any images you want Copilot to use. I'm going to copy the share link for this file, so I'll click the share button in the top right, then select Copy Link. Now that the link's been copied, I'll go back to the taskbar and switch to PowerPoint. Navigate to the File tab, and in the left-hand navigation of Backstage View, select New. The New tab opens in the Office section. Here we can browse through different themes and templates from Microsoft Office. To use my own custom template, I'll select Personal, then select the template I'd like to use. Now select Create. This opens a new presentation from the template, which uses my organization's logo and branding. Once again, in the Home tab, I'll select Copilot. This time in the right-hand pane, I'll select Create Presentation from File. Now I can select the file I'd like to use from the list of suggestions, or type in its name. Since I've copied a share link, I'll use Ctrl+V to paste in the link, and press Enter to submit my prompt. In the pane, I'm warned that creating a new presentation will replace my existing slides, so I may want to save a copy first. Since I'm using a new presentation from a template, I'll select Create New Draft to replace these slides. Now Copilot has created a presentation from the outline and using the branding in the template. I can scroll up in the pane to see the outline it's using for the presentation, and scroll down a bit to see the changes it's made. For example, it's drafted 17 slides. It's included speaker notes containing additional details from the outline. It's added images to make the deck more engaging, and it's applied layouts to organize slides. Once again, if I want, I can use the Designer tool. I can go down to the status bar to check the accessibility, and I can click and drag to make the slide pane larger, and scroll down to browse through slides to get a glimpse of my presentation. Of course, I'll want to make manual edits, but Copilot has provided me with a good base to start from. Now you've seen how to create a presentation using Copilot in PowerPoint. Once you've created your presentation in PowerPoint, you can seamlessly enhance it using Copilot's generative AI capabilities. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to use Copilot to add slides and images, and you'll also see how Copilot can generate a summary of your presentation and organize slides into sections. I've got a presentation open in PowerPoint. In the Home tab, I'll select the Copilot command to open the Copilot pane on the right. I'd like to add an image to this title slide, so I'll ask Copilot. In the prompt area, I'll type, add an image of a beautiful house. I'll press enter to submit the prompt. An image has been inserted and the slide has been reformatted accordingly. I can even add whole slides this way. This time I'll type, add a contact page at the end of this presentation. Again, press enter to submit the prompt. And Copilot instantly inserts a Contact Us slide at the very end of the presentation. Of course, I'll need to edit the details manually. We can also use the Copilot chat pane to get information from the presentation and to produce a summary. We can ask questions about specific details of the presentation. For example, in the pane I can see the suggested prompts, what are Homotic's core values and mission, and what is Homotic International. I'll select what is Homotic International and scroll up to see the response. Copilot provides an answer based on the information in the presentation, and there's even an option to copy the answer to the clipboard. Next, I'll click in the prompt area and type, summarize this presentation. Press enter again, scroll up to view the response, and I can see Copilot has generated a pretty detailed summary, including citation numbers, which we can hover over to see a link to the reference and the context in the presentation. I'll click a link to jump to the relevant slide. Finally, Copilot can also help you organize your presentation into sections. Below the prompt area, I'll select the View Prompts button. Then I'll select Edit from the menu and select the prompt Organize this presentation. Scrolling up, I can see a summary of the changes Copilot has made. It's grouped the slides into sections and it's even added slides. I can scroll through the slide pane on the left to see the sections it's created. Now you've seen how to use Copilot to enhance PowerPoint presentations. Copilot in Microsoft Loop facilitates collaboration. In this video, you'll see how to use Copilot to instantly create page content, rewrite blocks of text, summarize the page, and recap changes for your collaborators. I'd like to use Copilot to add some content to this page I've got open in a workspace in Loop in Microsoft Edge. So I'll click to insert my cursor, enter a slash, and this opens the menu with options for inserting content. At the top of the menu is the Copilot section with options to draft page content and summarize the page. I'll select draft page content and scroll down. In the Copilot Compose box, we can enter a custom prompt or select one of the buttons to generate an example. For example, create, brainstorm, blueprint, and describe. I'll select blueprint. This generates the example prompt, blueprint steps for a product launch, which is exactly what I need. Unfortunately, at this time, Copilot for Loop doesn't have access to any information in the page or in a file to use as context. So either I'll need to be more specific in my prompt or accept that I'll have a more generic output. I'm okay with that, so I'm going to click the Submit button. And when Copilot has created the draft, I'll scroll down to see the output. So here we've got a blueprint as a numbered list. In front of the output is a Copilot overlay with a text box to rewrite with Copilot and a list of any prompts that have been used for the selected text. In the text box, I'll type a new prompt, rewrite with keywords in bold, and press enter. And now Copilot has bolded keywords in the output and added the new prompt to the list in the overlay. I'll click the X to close the overlay. Notice that next to content generated with Copilot, you'll see the Copilot icon in the right margin, which you can click to reopen those options. We can also use Copilot to rewrite text that has been written manually, So I'll scroll up and I'd like to rewrite a few paragraphs, so I'll select them. Then click the waffle icon in the left margin to open some options, including Rewrite with Copilot. I'll select that. And now in the text box that opens in the overlay, I'll select Rewrite with a more professional tone. Press Enter to submit, and Copilot has rewritten this text. Finally, we can use Copilot to recap changes to keep everyone up to date. To do so, I'll click the Settings and More button, the three dots in the top right corner. Then, in the menu, select Recap. This opens a recap pane on the right. Since there are no recaps yet, I'll click the button Create New Recap. And here I can manually enter a recap, or instead I'll select Recap Your Changes with AI to get Copilot to do it for me. It's provided a recap of some of the changes I've made in this session. Note that you'll want to check this as it won't always be totally accurate. You can of course manually edit the recap. For example, I can @mention a colleague. I'll type select the name Lisa Washington to @mention her, and now I'll click Post to add this recap. My colleagues will now be able to see this change by opening the recap pane. I'll click the X in the top right to close the recap pane. And now you've seen how to use Copilot for Microsoft Loop. Do you ever feel stuck brainstorming for a project or document? Copilot for Whiteboard makes brainstorming easy by suggesting ideas, sorting them into categories, and even generating a clear and concise summary of your notes. I've got the Whiteboard web app open in the Edge browser. That's whiteboard.microsoft.com, but you can also use the Whiteboard app in Teams. I'll select New Whiteboard. Now I've created a new whiteboard, I'll give it a name. So I'll select the default title Whiteboard, and in the board name field, I'll select the default title and enter a new one, Slogans. Click the check to rename. Now I'd like to generate some slogans for my company. So I'll go down to the toolbar at the bottom and select the Copilot icon. This opens a menu with the options Suggest, Categorize, and Summarize. I'll select Suggest, Ideas and Content. In the Suggest Content with Copilot Compose box, I'll enter a prompt. Suggest slogans for smart home, a housing automation technology brand. Click the Submit button to generate suggestions. And now Copilot has suggested 6 ideas. It always suggests 6 at a time. Things like smart home, the future of living, and automate your life with smart home. However, in the prompt, I've forgotten an important detail, so I'm going to select the Edit option. This takes me back to the prompt, which I am going to change to Suggest slogans for smart home, a green housing automation technology brand, and again select Submit or Generate Suggestions to update these ideas. Now we've got slogans like Simplify Your Life, Save the Planet. We can remove an idea by clicking the X icon to the right of a suggestion. And if you want to add new ideas, select Generate More, and Copilot will generate 6 more ideas. Now I'll select Insert to insert these 11 notes onto the whiteboard. You'll notice in a toolbar above the selection of notes, we've got the Categorize option. Before categorizing these ideas, I'd like to come up with a few more ideas. So I can select a note I like and ask Copilot to come up with similar ones. I can see a note that says a green home, a smart home. I'll double click this note to select it, and in the toolbar below this selection, I'll select Suggest. Now Copilot comes up with 6 more ideas. I'll select Insert to add them all. Again, above the selection of notes, you'll see the option to categorize them in the toolbar. To categorize all of these notes, I need to zoom out to get them all in view. So I'll click the Zoom Out button a couple times in the bottom right corner. Now I've got all the notes in view, and I'll click the Copilot icon, then select Categorize Notes in View. I'll click and drag the whiteboard to scroll down, and I can see a prompt asking me to confirm, so I'll select Categorize to group these notes into categories. Let's use the zoom tool in the bottom right to zoom in a bit, and I can see it suggested categories like sustainable automation, efficient living, and green home. Again, I'll click and drag up on the screen to scroll down, and now I've got options to keep it, revert to remove the categories, or regenerate to come up with a new grouping. I'll select keep it, and now the notes have been categorized. Finally, I can ask Copilot to come up with a summary. So I'll select the Copilot icon, then select Summarize Note Content. Copilot now inserts a summary in the form of a loop component. Again, I can zoom in to get a better look, scroll down, and either select Discard to remove or select Keep it. I'll select Keep it, and scrolling back up, in the top right corner of the loop component, I've got options to copy it in case I want to add it, for example, to an email, or to see who has access, where I can share it with others. Now you've seen how to generate ideas with Copilot in Whiteboard. When you use generative AI, knowing how to prompt effectively is key to getting the output you're looking for. In this tutorial, we'll introduce you to the 4 parts of an effective prompt. We'll also explore Copilot Lab, an extensive repository of prompts to use with Copilot for Microsoft 365. I've got the Edge browser open to office.com, the Microsoft 365 web portal, and I'm in the Copilot tab of the left-hand navigation, which is also known as Microsoft 365 Chat. From here, I'd like to draft a project proposal, which I can then copy and paste and put into Word, for example. Microsoft Support recommend using a specific prompt that has 4 parts: a goal, context, expectations, and a source. I'll click inside the prompt area and begin entering my goal. This is what I want Copilot to produce. I'll say create a detailed project proposal. Next, we need some context. This is essentially what the output is needed for. I can say the proposal is intended to secure a partnership with Eco Living, a green construction company. It's important also to include your expectations. This is how you want Copilot to respond. For example, tone, length, or any specific details you want it to include. I'll say, emphasize our commitment to sustainability and innovation. Finally, it's always good to provide a source. This could be a file or another information source that Copilot should reference. Let's say use details provided in, I'll type a slash, and in the menu that opens, select the file I want to use, which is called Project Plan. I'll click the send arrow to submit this prompt. Copilot begins generating a detailed draft, and because I used a specific, well-structured prompt, I should expect a better output. However, it's important to realize that answers can always be incorrect or biased, so you should always check the accuracy of your response. It's also a good idea to iterate, generating multiple responses and drafts, and adjusting your prompt as necessary. You can browse through a list of prompts for different applications that use Copilot. In Microsoft 365 Chat, select View Prompts. This opens the Copilot Lab overlay. Here you can scroll down to browse through prompts, open the Categories dropdown and select a category filter, for example, Catch Up, Create, or Ask. I'll select Create to filter only prompts for creating content. We can save prompts in this view. Simply click the Save Prompt button in the bottom right corner of the prompt you want to save. Select Save Prompts in the top left of this overlay to find a list of saved prompts. You can click Unsaved Prompt to remove a prompt from the list. To browse prompts for all applications using Copilot, select Go to Copilot Lab. This opens the Copilot Lab window in a new tab, or you can directly enter the address copilot.cloud.microsoft. Here we can open the App dropdown, and then select specific applications to filter by. For example, I'll select Word, OneNote, and PowerPoint. Now I'll click away to close the filter menu. Once again, we can filter by category. I'll open the category dropdown, and again select the filter Create. Again, I'll click away to close the menu, and now I can scroll down to browse through prompts for the selected applications. You'll see the icon of the application in the bottom left corner of the prompt. I'll select a prompt for Word, Write a Marketing Plan. This opens an overlay window containing the prompt, with an option to copy the prompt, save the prompt, and share the prompt with others. We can also scroll down to see a list of similar prompts. For example, write cover letter and outline a business plan. I'll close this overlay, and now you've seen how to prompt more effectively in Copilot for Microsoft 365.